to the Amy Edwards Show. I'm your host, Amy Edwards, and here we are in person today. I'm so excited. I love Zoom too, don't get me wrong, but there's something about the energy, especially when you're with somebody that's like so focused on energy, which is what we are today. So thank you for turning up, because this is all about just those little steps that we make to expand in life and transform into something that is maybe even better than you ever imagined. So usually it is for me. So welcome and thank you so much. And I'm so excited to welcome our guest today, Dr. Nisha Khanna. Nisha is a former guest of the show as well. And we talked about wonderful things like energetic orgasms and so many things that have stayed with me. And I love that episode. So I'm going to put that link in the show notes too. And welcome again. I love seeing you. And you are the author of the new book, Return to Center, which came out last week. East meets West Medicine, an integrative medical guide to healing. Absolutely stunning in the hard copy. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy for you and happy to know you and happy to do my part to help support this, because I know what an incredible person you are and knowledgeable. So what a wonderful offering. And it's purple and red and beautiful, and your artwork's in it. So welcome.
I'm so happy to be
How
here.
you feeling?
I feel good. I feel like this process is a process of publishing a book, and I've gone through a lot of ups and downs and second guessing myself, and I think I'm arriving at that place of, well, can I choose to just let this be easy? Can I just choose to let this be flow? And
can you?
Can I? Yes.
Can you?
Yeah, I think I can. and
you can.
You
definitely.
hear about those orgasmic births. Can it be one of those?
God, if that exists, I don't know. People say they do, but mine weren't. Yeah, I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it is. And, we do have those choices. And how long have you been working on this?
I started writing it in 2019.
So 5 years.
Yeah. And
it's a long pregnancy.
It's a very long time.
Yeah.
I wrote it in about 9 months.
Yeah.
And then it just stayed on my computer.
As they do. Yes.
For years.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought I needed to be an influencer. I needed to have a following. I needed to have an email list, or all the little I need to in order to share this book. And so I kept waiting, thinking maybe if I meet the right literary agent, what if I'm like discovered or found? And none of that really happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely put some effort into it. And it didn't materialize, and it's almost like the book was just gathering dust, and there was a part of me that was wondering, is it relevant still? Is it done already? Like, should I post this book into the world, publish it into the world? And in that process of asking, I took a bath.
Yeah.
I took a bath and asked the question, and the message I got is that when we create art, we don't create it for the observer. We create it because art needs to be created, and it deserves to be created without a purpose. The purpose of art is just to exist. And so that was the first part of the message. And then the second part was the process that I wrote the book in, which felt very much like a flow state for most of the book. It carries an energy of activation. So if somebody picks up the book and starts reading it, that energy transmission is there. So that was the second piece. And then the third piece was, okay, art deserves to be created. It's an energetic activation to read it. But then if you actually follow what I'm suggesting, your life will change for the better. And as you change and shift, your families will be affected and their lives will change and shift, and it will have a ripple effect into communities. And so I went ahead and published it. I went ahead and self-published it because the book the book wanted to be published regardless of what my ego was telling me needed to happen or didn't have to happen. And
Yeah.
I think part of it was actually also separating myself from the book and knowing that it exists as an entity of its own and it has its own timeline. And my timeline might say that there's all these other things that need to happen first, but it had a timeline and I tuned into that. And it wanted to be published in September and be out in the world regardless of whatever I was thinking needed to happen in order for that to be good. So so here it is.
It looks like September. That looks right for it. And you know, I'm really glad you brought all those things up, and I can relate to a lot of that. A lot of the part about the creative process, and then it having it's like you have to separate yourself and just put it out there, and then you're not in control of what happens now. You know, like you are to a certain extent, and then it's like, okay, what happens now? But I love that too you brought up, I think probably a lot of people listening can relate to that feeling of like, oh, I need to be this before I can do this, as if there's a right and wrong way. And there's not. I was just listening to someone talking about public speaking the other day, and she was like giving advice to prospective speakers or people who are seeking that path. And she was saying, you have to have a book. Well, there's 7-figure speakers that don't have books. I know who they are. And like Justin's told me that. He's like, there's people that don't have books. You don't have to. And so there's no right way, even though we get that gets in the way all the time.
Yeah.
And how does that relate to, I don't know, maybe anything that you talk about in here too, as far as energy?
Well, I think the biggest message in the book that kind of appears chapter after chapter is, why do we want to be healthy? And we want to be healthy. Ultimately, I'm going to answer the question in the book, is so that we are able to connect to our creativity and offer our unique gifts to the world. Because when we don't feel well in our mind or our body, we're not thinking about that. We're not thinking about and you know, so it really is a return to center. It's a return to that childlike play, that bliss, that joy that is our innate state, so that we can create from that place. And I think it's very sad that most people are not connected to that. Even there might be glimpses in their life, but but I just think what is possible if we had more people activated for that.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know return to center because they've never even experienced what that's like.
Yeah.
We have a fast-paced environment, you know, like.
And I think the thing that comes from the Eastern philosophy that the medicine that I bring into the book is the idea that bliss is our innate state. When we feel any emotion or any ailment, it's really just like a smudge on the mirror, because the mirror itself is mirroring the light of our soul, and that is animating our body. However, when we feel pain or when we feel sadness or whatever, it's really just like a smudge. And even the memory of something traumatic is a smudge in our perception, because when there aren't any smudges, the light of the soul penetrates our perception and we see everything as amazing creation. We're just in ecstatic joy. And there's so many opportunities to experience that spontaneously if you are healthy. And so the book is an avenue to return to that center within ourselves.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's so beautiful. And then I guess, you know, when you've just got your mirror without any smudges, we were talking a little bit about ego before we started this, and that being an integral part of the experience and all the emotions that we have. Like, I don't like to see those as smudges. I like to see those as like part of the experience, right?
Yeah, I think it's not like, we need to just wipe away this smudge, but it is to understand that it is a layer
A layer.
And essentially, it's a layer that you can penetrate if you choose at some point in time. It's not like, oh, I need to remove this with a cloth.
Right.
But it is to, I think many people aren't even aware that if they didn't have these layers, that the inside was actually just pure joy.
Yeah.
They think that that might be something that you have to get through taking a substance that you can't access as your natural state. And so it's more to know that when you experience an emotion, it really is just, as we know, energy in motion. It is just energy that's moving away from the center. And you can boomerang right back to center if you allow yourself to fully experience that.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite teachers?
Well, honestly, Dr. Ladd, who endorsed the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's at
excellent.
the beginning, and he was my teacher of Ayurveda in 2011 to 2013.
Here it is right here. Dr. Vasant? How do you say that?
Vasant.
Vasant Ladd.
Yeah. And so so he's just an incredible human, infuses so much spirituality into medicine. And I feel like that was a permanent kind of imprint for me. And then, the book is dedicated to all my teachers and students because I feel like I learn from my patients too.
For sure, for sure. But I mean, that's what's missing, right? When we talk about Western medicine is the spirituality, right? Like when you talk about him infusing medicine with spirituality, that's it. A lot of it, isn't it?
It's a huge part of it because one of the other, premises within Ayurveda and a lot of Eastern medicine is that the spirit being more subtle than the physical body, the subtle is more powerful than what's gross. So the gross body, we can touch it in 3D. The mind is more powerful than the body because it's more subtle than the body. And then the spirit is more subtle than the mind, so it's more powerful than the mind. And so it's the idea, I believe, that I speak about in the book, that there's crosstalk between the two. It's a two-way highway. When the body doesn't feel well, it informs the mind and the spirit. And when the spirit has the ability to inform the body. And so it's a beautiful way to understand what you're thinking and feeling and experiencing in terms of the elements. So, for example, one of my first blog posts that I ever wrote was, it's not you, it's your pitta. It's not you, it's your fire energy. So I think oftentimes we begin to think of our personality as being a certain way. Oh, I'm just irritable. I just get frustrated. I just get really frustrated in traffic and I'm swearing at people or whatever. And you think, okay, that's just me. However, no, it's not just you. It's your pitta. It's your fire element that's increased, and it's informing your actions and your sense of self. And so I like to think of the body spirit as like a two-way highway.
Or maybe more ways. Maybe there's all different directions.
Multidimensional highway.
Yes, a multidimensional highway. Can we talk some more about the elements? Yeah, I would love to I know we talked about it on the first time you were in here, but I don't have great retention, and plus it's all in the book. So let's talk about that some.
Yeah, so I review kind of the Ayurveda basics that you really need to know to be able to navigate the book in the first section. It's the kind of quick reference guide at the beginning.
Love that.
And it goes through the 5 elements. So those are ether, air, fire, water, earth. And they go from subtle to gross. And so there's this principle that helps us understand the world and how we relate to it. And it says, we're all made up of the same stuff. So essentially, we're all made up of the 5 elements in different proportions. So the popcorn you eat has more air, and the soft, fluffy couch you have has more kapha, more earth, and the season outside is summer, so it's got more fire, more heat. And so when you begin to start seeing your whole world, including your pets, as embodying 1 or 2 predominant elements, you can understand everything about that person, place, or thing. And, it's funny, when I first started learning Ayurveda, I would kind of show off, and I would talk to someone and be like, oh, I know what I know everything that, you tend to feel this. This is what your bowel movements are like. This is, how your attention span. This is how you retain, memory. And I would just like
Your
rattle.
party trick.
Yeah, I'd rattle everything off, and they'd be like, oh, wow.
Do me. Do me, please.
Wow. Well,
What would you say?
Okay, I don't know. Let me see. Well, I'd love to check your pulse, and then I get an even better sense. But should I do it right now?
Yes, why not?
Okay.
Do it.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. I got you.
So when I was checking your pulse, and typically you do it in a kind of a different setting, but this was like a quick.
Not while recording a podcast. And she squeezed both my wrists kind of firmly for a few seconds. I may edit that down. So
yeah. So when I squeeze and go deep, that gives me your innate constitution, and then as I feel what's on the surface, that's more what's happening these days.
Okay, I know what I think I am, so let's see what you say.
So I was getting Pitta predominant with Kapha secondary.
Okay.
What do you get when you've done quizzes and things?
I don't know, but I thought I was more earth oriented. Yes. So.
Yeah. So I was getting that you're a combo of earth and fire.
Oh.
And that your current state is more, there's more kind of that air energy, the vata.
That sounds right. Mm-hmm.
And so the characteristics, kind of more personality characteristics of Kapha and the earth and the fire are, and you can tell me if that feels accurate for you, but there is a huge nurturing aspect to you, and there's also a lot of drive. And essentially, if you put your mind to something, you'll accomplish it. And but you do it with ease and love and flow. Does that sound right?
So it does, yes. And I've been working a lot more toward that, just ease. With this water bottle company I'm starting and stuff, I'm just trying to be in that, like, the next step will come as it should, and not get ahead of myself and stressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to get ahead of yourself when really we don't even have to worry about that yet. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, thank you. I got to experience your party trick. But anyway, well, back to what you were talking about. So I'll let you continue. So, sorry.
I don't know if I remember exactly what I was saying, but I'll just tell you a little bit about how I laid the book out, because I think that could be fun.
Please do. By the way, it is beautiful. If anyone is even considering ordering it, I would say absolutely do order the hard copy, because I haven't seen it till today, and that's why I'm sitting here flipping through it while we talk, because I'm getting to enjoy looking at it. It feels amazing. It smells good. Smells good. It's beautiful. The pages just look fantastic. So tell me about how it's laid out.
So the beginning is a little bit of a quick reference guide for the first few pages.
I love a quick reference guide.
And there's also a glossary at the back.
I love glossaries.
And and then there's the first couple chapters are on the center, which is the gut.
Okay.
And then I talk about these 3 avenues to center, and it's what we eat, it's our microbiome, it's our elimination, and our metabolism, our digestive fire. So there are these 3 avenues to center. And so it's kind of what goes in, what goes out, and how we transform.
Yes.
And so so that's the beginning, because it is the foundation. It's the most important. And then from there, I take you from the center on a journey through Ayurvedic anatomy, through your tissues, through your lymph, your blood, your muscle, fat, bone, nervous system, and reproductive system. So you go on this journey with me, and I explain how those tissues are nourished, how they look when they're really nourished, what diseases and pathologies and symptoms are the most common in each one. For example, in the first one, the lymph, we see a lot of acne, or in the second tissue, maybe eczema, psoriasis. In the third tissue, fourth tissue, go like that. And then I highlight with each of those tissues patient cases that I actually worked with, and how I restored them back to health. And I think, a lot of people be able to identify with those things because they're pretty common. Things like IBS or eczema or PCOS or metabolic syndrome, which would be like diabetes and cholesterol, and anxiety, panic attacks. These are some of the patients that I worked with. And I kind of guide you step by step what I used, supplements, whether there was some energetic work that we did, how we healed leaky gut. And so it's kind of like a reference guide, but also the sort of book that you want to put on your coffee table and just flip through the pages, because there's diagrams and charts and artwork and it's all color. So I'm really, really happy with it.
You should be. It's really, really pretty. And I love the way it's laid out, and I would lay it on my table. And you've even got a quote. You've got some quotes in here. You've got a Course in Miracles quote.
Mm-hmm. Lots of little
quotes. You a big
quotes.
fan of Course in Miracles?
I mean, I took a dive into it a few years ago. I never finished the whole 365 workbook. Did you do it?
That's a tall order. No, I read A Course in Miracles Made Simple, like a short book about it. That was great. I highly recommend it. But then I am trying to get through it. But my God, it's slow. It's so slow going. And I just have to accept that I don't really understand it all the time. I just sort of read and I let it just permeate my being.
I think that's a big part of it, because I definitely get my mind into knots sometimes reading it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I think it's kind of like, I've tried reading the Bible at times too. I think it's something you just need to not go so detail oriented, but just kind of take a step back and let the kind of knowing and understanding sort of percolate, like you said.
Exactly. I just figure it'll just get in there where it needs to be. So don't sweat it. But I think I have a friend who listened to it and she wouldn't understand it all, but she was just listening while she was on walks and stuff. And I was like, that's probably a pretty good idea. Just like zone out and listen to it or fall asleep to it. I bet that's great.
Yeah.
So,
well, they have, towards the back of the book, they have these like workbook exercises you do one a day for a year. And so I actually didn't read the beginning part. I just went to the exercises, and
I've seen that.
And that was they're really good. I mean, it's just like helping you understand how we perceive things and allowing you kind of a different perception.
Oh, that's a good idea. Good recommendation. All right, well, back to the book. Your artwork, just as long as we're talking about additions to what it is, your artwork is in here. And tell me a little bit about that. You're so creative. I mean, like, you made some chocolates that you used to sell, and like, I would always buy them. They were so incredibly good. What were they called again?
The Tantric Kitchen.
Tantric Kitchen. Oh my God. Look how beautiful. If you're watching this, I'm showing some of it. And so tell me about your art a little bit too.
Yeah, so I've just really enjoyed the process of making alcohol ink designs on glass. And so they look great in the book, but then in person the light permeates the glass too and kind of shifts it and lights it up in interesting ways throughout the day.
Yes.
So I just really enjoy the free expression, because I was an art major in college. I don't know if I told you that. I studied, my courses were studio art and photography.
Wow.
And then I did all the pre-med stuff too. But my artwork was always so kind of scientific in a way. Like, I'd have to get every detail right, and the shadows and the colors and everything. And so I was putting science into art, at that point. And so what I've enjoyed about these inks is that you can't be that precise. You have to like work quickly and just let them flow, and you guide them a little bit, but you don't control it. And so I love that they're kind of forcing me into a level of surrender with the art. And so that's sort of the expression I like right now.
Yeah, well, it balances you out probably. It gives you some more of that like ease and letting go, combined with this scientific nature of figuring it out almost, you know?
Yeah, the precision with surrender sort of mixed together. So there's still recognizable. It's not like total abstract, but it is, there's a lot of flow in it, and the colors are so bright, and so it feels very aligned right now.
I love it. Yeah, that's really beautiful. So I'm excited to see some of that in person sometime. Let's talk a little bit about toxins. I noticed when I was flipping through too, I saw something that said trauma is a toxin, and we've talked on this show about shame and the toxic nature of so many things like that, and trauma, I think, falls in there as well. So can you speak to that some?
Yeah, so that section is in my chapter on fat tissue, and
that's interesting.
Yeah, and so each chapter is dedicated to a tissue. So the fat tissue is like a storage unit for chemicals, pesticides, and emotions that are toxic.
Yeah.
And so what happens is the body, it's a natural defense. So say you eat something that's really toxic for you, literally, like it's got chemicals in it that are foreign, and your body ordinarily would not do well having those move to your organs like your brain and your heart. It's like its defense is to store it away in fat.
Yeah.
It's to protect you. And so that actually might lead to some weight gain because you're creating more of this storage unit. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about trauma being a toxin, is that the toxic emotions related to traumatic events that are not processed, meaning they haven't been, worked through, they get stored in fat too. And so as you detox, whether that's a physical detox, you do a cleanse, or you go to a retreat or something where you do start opening up that trauma to process, you can lose weight rapidly, or you could be doing a cleanse, like a gut reset, and start having a lot of emotions come up. So it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, that's interesting to me too. Just it caught my eye in there, but also just as someone who has gained weight after some trauma. When Justin and I were going through it, which I've talked about on this podcast, is like when he was really going back to treatment and all that, I gained a lot of weight. I was eating to cope. But that's so interesting. Like, I didn't expect you to say, oh, that's in the fat tissue section, and like, it makes sense just with what I've experienced, and it's taken more time. I've had to just relax with it and know that it just takes a little more time than, and maybe part of it's my age too, but it's taken more time to just release that and I don't give myself grace around it, to let that trauma have the time to heal that it needed. For me, it's not a cleanse thing. It's not an overnight, I'm going to lose it or anything like that. And do you see some of that, like people needing to give themselves time for it?
Definitely. I think we can always be in a rush to return to a certain way of appearance or things like that. And I think, honestly, like the whole process of aging is a huge surrender, because it's like our identity that we've known to now is shifting, but at least the one we see in the mirror.
Tell me about it. I can relate.
And so it's, I honestly think that in that way, aging is a beautiful, beautiful preparation for death, which is the biggest surrender. And, surrender to change, to surrender to the unknown. You don't know what you're going to look like the next day. And I think that there are ways to move through things that are supportive. So, what can happen is a lot of times people take a lot of time. You can go on either extreme. You could either try to just rush through it and move through the trauma and just get it done with, and that doesn't really support you. Or you could not process it at all, right. And it just stays with you forever, and you identify with the story of being a victim and the trauma and all of that, and that's not supportive either. And so I think there is a middle path for that. And there are things that you can do physically to help with the emotional body too. So doing a gut reset, working on a process that heals leaky gut, which also, as I speak in the book, heals leaky boundaries with our energy and, brings more discernment to the center of the body, the intestines, but also knowing where you stand, where is your boundary. That could be supportive in the emotional processing too.
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
This podcast is sponsored by Wands. Wands creates luxurious pleasure practice tools that help people become more connected to their bodies. They have a huge selection of incredible items like yoni eggs, the most gorgeous crystal pleasure wands you've ever seen, free bleed blankets, and my favorites, the trademarked glass CERVIX wand and the Venus wand, which is their heaviest wand made of stainless steel, and their new ecstatic vibrator. This company is woman-owned and creates products designed to help you become more connected to your body and your pleasure and support the healing of pelvic pain. Get yours today in their always discreet packaging at wands.com. That's wands with 2 A's, WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes to get 10% off or enter the code Amy Edwards at checkout. Again, that's wands, WAANDS.com. The Amy Edwards Show is sponsored in part by Higher Dose. Higher Dose creates wellness tech for everyone with tools, supplements, and body care. And I have 15% off for you with my code MAGIC15. Higher Dose has been featured in Goop, Glamour, Elle, Vogue, Bazaar, Allure, and more. I have their infrared pulsed electromagnetic field, or PEMF mat, which emits electromagnetic waves that mimic natural frequencies found in nature, stimulating and encouraging your body's natural recovery process. It also has 20 pounds of crystals in it and has shown to ease chronic pain, aid in exercise recovery and circulation, deepen your meditations, reduce stress, and improve total body relaxation. I also love their red light face mask. It stimulates collagen, reduces fine lines, regenerates cells, and it's soft and easy to use and store and even travel with. I'm a true fan of these items and more, like their glow serum. So I'm excited to offer you 15% off using my code MAGIC15. Go to the show notes. You can click through on the link right there. Or if you go to Higher Dose, just enter the code MAGIC15 for 15% off. HigherDose.com. This podcast is sponsored by The Collective ATX. If you're looking for the best in hair extensions, it's The Collective ATX. They do mine, and I won't go anywhere else. I've tried them all over the years, and finally, I've found what makes my real hair stronger and fuller, and even works with my natural curl. They keep all their extensions in-house, so there's no wait, and they specialize in no damage to your natural hair like traditional hair extension methods. Plus, they're pros at color and covering gray. I have literally never in my life been happier with my color. They were named a top 200 salon by Salon Today in 2023. They've changed my hair journey. Let them change yours. The Collective ATX, link is in the show notes.
What's one of your favorite things for people to learn from your book, do you think? Or that you're most excited for people to learn from your book?
I think a theme that recurs through each chapter that I'm really excited about to share with others is to give the person who reads this book a different understanding of their health and well-being, so that they recognize that a lot of what they're experiencing is reversible. If you know the pathway that disease takes, you know how to get back to you, to the original blueprint of you. So I'm really excited about that. And then on top of that, I'm really excited about once they get to that original blueprint, what are they going to do with it? Like what amazing magic gets to be created.
What have we been operating under?
In general?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think most of us don't really even understand how to heal. I think we go to doctors and they don't even know.
That just spirit mind part of it maybe, and like
Well,
Or
even from the physical sense, there isn't a huge root cause approach. I feel like this offers like the deepest root cause because it allows you to understand how things may have got imbalanced through the lens of the elements. Even functional medicine, which does focus on the gut, isn't the full picture. I do use functional medicine in my practice, some of it, but I merge and blend the two because you could end up on a bunch of supplements that you can't digest. And then that's not supportive either. It's not building intelligence within the body to actually heal. It's just getting you addicted to a whole other set of things. So I feel like what this book offers and what somebody who receives it will just some hope that there's an avenue to get to a deeper root. And yes, there are mental, emotional, spiritual threads that impact that, but there's also physical. And so it gives you the pathway of the physical and the mind body.
I like that. And like, you know, for people that feel like I've tried everything, you probably haven't. But, you know, like really, like, let's be real. And so this is, that it provides at least another path and hope, and a path that you, I'm assuming, have seen work numerous times, correct?
Yeah, that's all the cases in the book are.
I love that you put cases in it.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love those stories.
It's so funny because that part came this year. I wrote the book 5 years ago, and then I was like, oh, I'll just add the cases when, you know, I find a good case that represents that. And I think I needed to see patients in that time and actually work for 5 years and build this case library, because the cases end up being almost the best part, because it just provides like a picture, you know, oh, this is how you actually apply this. This is how it works. And so, yeah, I mean, in the book, like the cases that I described, like, you know, PCOS patient not having a period for 9 months. After working together for 3 months, her periods are 32 days every month. You know, so just like bringing a menstrual cycle back for a woman where it's been gone, and you know, she's trying to conceive and kind of giving her that possibility. Or something like IBS, that, you know, the case I described, the woman had gone to the ER, had endoscopies, had CT scans, had all kinds of things injected with different substances, put on opiates, all kinds of things for IBS. And they were, you know, thinking, is it a cyst? Is it this? Is it that? And then we worked together, and I think it was one session, and it was all gone. She had known her body to be in pain for, I think she saw me when she was like 17. For 17 years, we did one session, and then we also did an acupressure session for her second visit, and she didn't need to see me again, and she's still well. So it's like just empowering someone to make certain choices, and it's not exactly what you eat, but sometimes it's also how it's prepared that informs how it's digested. And so
just in that one session, that was the kind of thing that y'all did? Mm-hmm. Wow.
So yeah, there's some real like empowering cases within the book of how healing is possible in a way that maybe you hadn't experienced before.
That must feel so validating. When you help somebody like that, you must be like, fuck yes, you know? Like
it really is. It's like the best part of what I do is just it's the second visit, you know, when people come back to me and are smiling, and if they've lost 10 or 15 pounds within 2 weeks. And, you know, because we are shedding the inflammatory weight that has built up because of toxicity, and just guiding them to support their digestion and their detox. And so, yeah, like the first visit is always like we spend 2 hours together, and, you know, like they're just like, okay, yeah, let me see. I'm just kind of feeling this out. But the second visit, they're all smiles usually, you know, and they're like, this is working, and this is working, and this is working. And I mean, I'm not saying it always all happens in 2 visits, but I think that's an amazing feeling. And also for me, I think it's just being in communion with the patient, like in that time that we spend together. I feel like time stops, you know, and I'm just so fully focused on the patient in front of me. And their story, as well as like how we're communicating and educating and shifting thought patterns around certain things, and it's that feeling of timelessness that happens when you're in full communion. And that part is very rewarding.
Do the people that come to you know something about it already, or like?
No, that's not common. I would say they may have heard of Ayurveda, or someone in their family had heard of it, and so that might be some of what prompts search. But most people don't have the Ayurveda language. It's not familiar to them. They're just wanting
like,
a different
I
approach.
heard this could help, or something like that. That's so amazing, and that's who this book can help too. You don't have to know anything.
Right.
I think that's important to point out.
Yeah, it's meant for just a beginner's mind who's interested in healing and wellness that is, outside of the traditional medical system. There are cases in there where I have used prescriptions if that was necessary. So one of my patients who had eczema, she had an overt infection, cellulitis of her skin, and she needed a prescription the first time I saw her. So I will do that. I'm not going to just be like, herbs is the way, if that's going to, threaten her health.
Yeah.
But then it's always to try to shift towards things that are going to be more symbiotic with the body. And so that could be, in her case, it was herbs and diet and certain supplements, and also a cleanse.
Wow. No, that's the blend of Eastern and Western.
Yes.
That's the part where you go, it's science too, and there's value in these other things, and then we move toward what balances your body, right? Like,
yes, it's like,
it's making me want to do a session with you. I know I am. Like, I don't really have anything wrong right now except my finger, but still.
Well, maybe read the first few chapters first, and then you might not need me.
Oh, well, that's good though.
Yeah.
Like what a gift of your knowledge, because that's what we want, right? You want people to not need you.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the only reason to work with me is if you want someone to validate what's in that book.
Yeah.
And be like, do this.
Yeah.
Because it's what, one thing to read something, it's another thing to be like, receive the structure of this is what you do and this is when and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's all there. It's empowering.
It is. Is it second nature for you in your own life now? Or do you ever catch yourself like, I'm not doing, I'm not living as aligned with the principles that I teach and that I practice. So like, and how does that look for your own return to center?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't practice everything perfectly because I am a bit of a hedonist.
Is that right?
And I enjoy the body so much, and sensation and food and all of it. Like, I enjoy it so much. So I use this to allow me to do that and still stay relatively in balance. I'm not a perfect example of this medicine, but I am a really good example of how to use it so you can continue to still enjoy your life to the fullest.
That makes perfect sense, though. It really does. Those are the people that seek out like what they do, right? The people that need it the most, or yeah.
I mean, it's like there's always a loophole. If you like ice cream and you eat ice cream, you can put some cinnamon and clove on it and have some like warm ginger tea after, or do like a sugar reducing tea with some Hymenema sylvester. So there's little tricks and ways to balance it so that it doesn't spike your blood sugar. And so I am an expert at finding the little ways, the little loopholes, so that I can continue to just have a great time.
Tell me more loopholes, because that was a really good one right there. What are some more that you really love?
Well, say you go on vacation and you eat a lot. the tendency could be just like, okay, I'm on vacation, screw it, I'm just going to do this for 7 days, and then when I get back home, I'll fix
pretty
it.
much me. Yeah, that's pretty much me. Yeah.
So a way to stay balanced on vacation is to move that kind of more indulgent meal to lunchtime, so that you have time to digest it overnight. Or if you do end up having a more indulgent dinner, then having just warm tea for breakfast and skipping breakfast, so you give your body enough time to process. You could warm up your drinks, because that helps with fat loss and weight loss and detox, to have more like tea temperature liquid versus right cold from the fridge. So there's some cute little tricks like that if you understand why, you can implement them where they make sense for you.
And those work for everybody, or
Yes.
Really?
And there might be some patients
That's
or people
fascinating.
with adrenal fatigue that need to eat every 3 to 4 hours, if their adrenal fatigue is very severe. So, there are always going to be a few exceptions here or there, but for the most part, there are some principles that apply to everyone. And I think that's what the beginning of the book shares, is like, this is what applies for everyone. If you do this, you're going to be able to support your lifestyle.
That's so important. And that's so encouraging to hear that it's not like so out of reach for anybody, or that we have to figure it out, oh my gosh, I got to figure out my type and then figure out all these different things, So it's such a different approach than so many other approaches that I've heard, like, blood type or all these different things. How do you feel about those?
Well, I think
different modalities,
I think there's some general things that work for everyone. And there's a real beauty and simplicity to the Eastern philosophy of Ayurveda that has certain things that just apply across the board. And if you do that, you're going to be really supported. And then if you want to go deeper, there's another layer, and you can find out what your constitutional imbalance is. And I actually created a dosha quiz that I shared recently, where it's unlike any other quiz, because it will tell you what your current imbalance is. It won't just tell you your constitution. It'll tell you what's actually wrong now, so you can come back into balance. And so
I want to do it.
Yeah. And so that is supportive, because then you add that layer of specificity for your particular constitution and what's currently going on. And so I think that some of the diets and plans that you mentioned that do offer that kind of strict specificity are, they really do offer wisdom. However, if you're not doing the basics, if you're not supporting the foundation, then you won't get as much of a return from those.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. What about like some other really practical things like sleep and sunlight, some things like that? Like, are those a big part of Eastern medicine? Are those parts of your practice? And how do you feel about that fitting into the book? And do you talk about that?
Yeah, it's throughout the book, because those are so like core in there,
Yeah, they are to me. I mean, that's why I brought it up.
So there's so much that can support sleep, and I have a whole section on the nervous system and adrenal fatigue and how to heal it, and different herbs and supplements that support sleep. And I feel like if you don't, and I ask about sleep on every single session when I talk to a patient, even if we talked 2 weeks ago, how's your sleep? I ask about sleep, energy, mood, and digestion. And those, I never forget to ask about those, because those are just very key in the whole system. And so I think that if you don't sleep, then you don't have good energy for the next day. Have you heard that when you go into deep sleep, it's the same state as when you go into deep meditation? And so essentially, I feel like deep restorative sleep is the balm of life that allows us to get out of our identity and actually connect with universal consciousness and be refreshed and rejuvenated from that place. And so you can replace parts of sleep with really deep meditation if you're able to access that, because you'll get the same level of rejuvenation which you get in the deepest stage of sleep.
Wow. No, that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and then sunlight. I have a whole, part in the book that talks about how it's the Agni in the sky. It's the fire in the sky that programs the fire in the body, the Agni in the body. And Agni is, I think, the second chapter because it's so important. It's your ability to digest, but also metabolize, and it informs. It's not just in the gut, it informs the intelligence of your whole body, all your tissues. And so I talk about that early morning sun where you go out in the morning and it's setting your circadian cycle for your hormones. It's essentially programming you for the whole day. And so yeah, sleep and sun are key.
Good. Yes, of course. And I'm a big, sleep is the key to my life. So like completely. And sometimes I just still stay up too late and I'm like, what am I doing? Like you were saying had felt a little off. You'd been staying up too late and all that. And we just that's part of returning to center for sure.
Yes.
For me. 100%. What has been one of your favorite parts of this process that has lit you up maybe the most?
I think when I added the cases, that really was just so gratifying to go back through some patient files and go into the details and be like, wow, we did a lot. Like they had all this and then they got better. And so it was just really rewarding. It felt very purposeful.
Did you have to reach out to them to say, can I include your story? Or did you sort of just use it as a case study?
Yeah, there's no patient identifiers in there, so no one would know. And in some of the cases I did ask, but there wasn't a need to specifically do like an informed consent because there's no patient identifying information like names and date of birth or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh. Well, what have we missed that we need to talk about with this book? What else do we need to talk about with it?
Well, I think we've covered a lot. I just want people to really just hold it in their hands because I feel like the color and the pages and it's the kind of book that you want to keep, even if you don't read much these days, it's the kind of book you want to look at.
It is. I appreciate your taste level with this. It doesn't look like it was easy to create. It looks like a lot of work went into it. You really took the time because even some of the pages are like different colors and it's really, really beautiful. So congrats on that because I know that's not easy to accomplish.
Well, I had support. I had a good formatter.
You did.
Yeah.
And I can tell. She was amazing. And
it was just, it didn't feel so much like work because it was such a labor of love. Like there's so much love in the book, and putting in my artwork was kind of like, oh, we've got these blank pages, what should we do? And that was just another added layer of love in myself.
It adds a lot. Mm-hmm. It really, really does. I mean, like it's so pretty. So good. Well, I don't want to miss anything. I want to anything else that we need to cover or share to encourage people to find this, this path, this way, right?
Yeah, I think it's just an awareness and understanding that this may be the deepest root cause approach that's out there because it's understanding the elemental cause versus just, oh, it's your microbiome, it's your gut. A lot of functional medicine talks about root cause healing, and I'm certified in functional medicine all the way through IFM. And this just takes it several levels deeper because it's understanding how the elements are playing in your body to create the pathology. It's not just take these supplements or herbs. It's understanding that so that you can return back to center.
I want to do that. I do. I feel like I've been kind of like on my own little path of it just in the last, just this year, but really lately. And I'm like, I think I'm hearing this right now for a reason. Like, I really feel called to do that. And that's so interesting too, that we think we've gone deep enough when we just hear like what you just said, that when we hear gut microbiome, like, oh, that's it. But you can go even further.
Yeah, if you go to the quick reference guide.
Yeah, in the beginning,
in
right?
the beginning, and go to stages of disease.
Okay, I'm gonna do that right now.
It talks about how things start to brew in the gut. I think it's the next page.
Okay, stages.
The next one. Yeah. That
Yeah,
page.
here it is. This is page 18 for anyone reading along.
So if you.
This right here.
Yeah, that's it. So if you go through that graphic, it talks about how things.
Oh my God, something's ringing. I'm so sorry. It's my daughter. She does that. So
It's okay.
my phone is set to pick up her calls, so she's declined. Okay, sorry. Yes, stages of disease.
And so it talks about these 6 stages where we start with accumulation, and that's the accumulation of the imbalanced element in the gut.
Okay.
And then aggravation, where it just accumulates further and you see the little containers filling.
Yes.
And then the 3rd stage is spread. So essentially it's gone beyond the limits of the container in the gut.
Yeah.
And now it starts spreading throughout the body.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows up in your lymph and your blood and out through the skin. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th stage is deposition, where it lodges in a place of weakness. So it might be a knee or it might be something else. It might be the eyes. Then the 6th stage is manifestation. Now it gets a name. You've got osteoarthritis, or you've got
Wow.
conjunctivitis, or whatever shows up. And then the 6th stage is destruction, where it actually creates deformity, and then that's irreversible at that point. But up until that point, disease is reversible.
Yeah. Wow. Cool.
So when I work with patients, I take them through that process of taking it at whatever stage it is and bringing it back to the gut.
Which is called what?
Return to center.
Return to center. Well, I can't wait to have my own copy of this. I'm really, it's really not only beautiful, but like super informative, and it's easy to read. I just want to add that, like if anybody's listening and curious, what you just described is like so easy to read right here. It's not complicated, which I have a massive appreciation for. I don't like things that are too wordy and too complicated and confusing, because then you'll put it down, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think in these days where it's so easy to listen to an audiobook while you're doing something else, it's almost like
I do it all the time.
I do. Okay. And I enjoy doing multiple things at once.
Me too.
And just, yes, it makes a lot of sense. And so I think we're moving away from a lot of reading with our eyes, unless it's really compelling. And I think that was the reason I created a very visually compelling book that was easy to read and formatted in a way that it was very easy to navigate, so that just being aware that that's how I am. So I expect there's a lot of people like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this type of content, I think it helps because it can feel overwhelming sometimes, and you can feel confused really easily. You can just slip into that. I don't know, and it's just too much. And then you go eat something and, there you are. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. So yeah. Well, what thought, as we start to wrap up, what thought would you like to leave everyone with today?
I think I'd like to leave everybody with the thought that integration is the strongest species. I think hybrids in nature are the strongest species, and that if you find yourself in any one camp where you're like, well, I tried this and I tried that, but why not combine them? Why not integrate and create something really amazing for yourself? And I think that's what the blend of East and West is, and Eastern Western medicine, is that you don't necessarily have to pick one thing and say everything else sucks or is wrong. It's that you can pick the best of both and create something really amazing for yourself.
I love that so much, and it's just like it's an openness when you adopt that attitude, right? And openness. I'm so sorry. My daughter keeps calling. So she's 15. So that's what 15-year-olds do. But it's that openness to whatever might be the right fit, and not a rigidity, I guess, right? Ah, so beautiful. So when people buy the book, I understand that they have some free gifts that go along with it. So what would that be?
Well, to support your healing as you move through the book, I am offering a free download of my gut healing recipes.
Yes. Oh, good.
And I'm the kind of person, as I just mentioned earlier today, that loves deliciousness in food. And
Me too.
So every recipe is delicious. It's not like a cleanse recipe. And so these recipes have become favorites in my patients' households. The whole family eats like that, and they don't want to go back. My whole family did it.
Oh my God, I
too.
love this.
So you get a free
I can't
download
wait.
of that.
Is your chocolate in there?
No.
No
But
Tantra Kitchen.
there's some other treats though, like
Okay.
some really good cookies. And then if you purchase the book and write a review, you get 30% off my gut reset that helps you heal leaky gut. So that's one of the foundations of the book.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then people can probably access that dosha quiz too. Is that free? Or?
It's free. It's online on my website.
Awesome. I'll put a link in the show notes because I want to do that too.
And it's also on my Instagram.
Yes. And if someone wanted to work with you, that's an option as well. Are you taking new patients or?
I am. I sort of put a pause over the summer as I was creating the book.
I bet.
But I'm starting up again in the fall. And so my website, Nisha Khanna MD, and you just go to consultation and services and able to see how you'd like to work with me.
Oh my gosh. I want Justin and I both to, really do.
Well, that sounds fun.
I know, right? It sounds amazing. So, well, I can't thank you enough. You are such a beautiful light in this world, and I love what you do, and you're so smart and just an incredible spirit and human and all the rest of it, woman, whatever we want to call you today.
Right back at you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just love the book. Everybody, the link is in the show notes. I would highly encourage you to order the hardback version. It is really, really amazing, and you'll be thrilled with it. I promise. I'm not going to steer you wrong on this just because she's sitting here with me. Promise. It's really stunning. So thank you again to Nisha, and then totally encourage you to check it out. And I hope you learned some stuff today. I certainly did, and I'll keep you, up to date on my Ayurvedic journey. Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm,
okay, good.
Perfectly.
I was trying to get that correct pronunciation in there. So thank you so much for being here today. And you're loving yourself when you show up to these shows, right? We're letting go of all the conditions that we have and just getting a lot more into that unconditional, beautiful space of growth and non-judgment and allowing and surrender and all those beautiful things that I'm always, super into. So thank you so much for turning up here. Join the newsletter if you haven't. amyedwards.com or amyedwards.info has everything and all previous shows and, great resource, easy to access. So share it with a friend too. If somebody came up in your thoughts today, that's like intuition, and maybe there's some hope that they need to find in some way, because we've all got our things going on, and there's a path forward, even to me. I mean, absolutely. I definitely have my own things that came up. So anyway, share it with a friend, because that helps this show grow too. And if you want to write a review, even better. So I love you so much. Thank you so much. Keep shining. Till next time.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.